We will start the meeting. I'll just do a short introduction. Welcome everyone to the monthly council meeting. I'd like to start by apologising for the lack of sound on the live stream last month. It's caused by Zoom, which we used to do the live stream, wanting to do a rather complicated update just before the meeting was about to start. So I had to switch to another device and the microphone didn't come across properly. But
I've done a sound check.
But Russell has done a sound check tonight and it should be working. This evening's meeting has got our usual clerks and ward councillors reports, and I'll also give the latest update on the clubhouse project. The clubhouse update is on our website already, even though it's just a few days old, it's slightly out of date. And there's also a set of cleaned up drawings on the website that you can have a look at. Tonight we've got 6 planning applications. One is our own application to provide an extension to the village shop, which, as you may know, is ultimately owned by the Parish Council. The second is a resubmission of a previously considered application for a rear extension at 17 Lodge Farm Court. Another is an application to discharge conditions at Old Station Yard. These are planning conditions. When Simon Hill got his planning permission, they put certain conditions on, and the one he's trying to discharge tonight is to do with the disposal of surface water, drains, etc. The 3 other applications are to do work on trees at 49 Shepperton Close, the Chestnuts in South Street, and at 6 South Street. And could I remind anyone watching that permission is required if a tree has got a tree preservation order on it, or if it is anywhere within the conservation area. The resolutions tonight, first of all, we have got a formal one to have a confidential part 2 of the meeting, which is without members of the public or the live stream. This is to consider 2 quotes that we have, one for gas supply at the village hall, and the other is the annual insurance renewal. There are 2 resolutions about the clubhouse, delegating authority for any change orders that come up during construction and approving the way the clubhouse will operate. There's a resolution on making Gobbett Field a village green, which would give it protection against development. There's the reappointment of Davina Brown as a trustee of the Charity for the Poor of Castlethorpe. The provision of a memorial plaque for the new redwood tree that was planted this morning at the on the triangle, if any of you have seen that. It does look like a Christmas tree, but I promise you it's not a Christmas tree, it is a redwood. And if you come back in 100 years' time, you will see it in its magnificence. And finally, there's a technical one about opening a new interest-bearing deposit account for Parish Council funds. As well as the usual payment approval of our monthly payments, we'll also consider the first draft of our 2024-25 budget, which we'll finalise at our next meeting in January. 3 residents have written to the council on various matters, and these will be discussed under correspondence. So I see 2 of you are here today, so we can discuss that in the open forum, which will save you waiting until the end of the meeting. I would urge any resident who has got any issues that are within the remit of the Parish Council to contact us either through the clerk or preferably by email to any councillor. Our next council meeting will be on the 8th of January, and I'll say this now in case some of you don't make it to the end of the meeting, but I'm sure the whole council will join me in wishing residents the very best for Christmas and the new year. So that's my introduction. So we now do have an open forum, and if you would, if there are any questions you'd like to raise, I think you've got them. Yeah, you can now speak. I'll tell you what would be good is if you could come and sit in one of these chairs, because you'll be nearer to the microphone. You won't be. Well, it's so everybody else can hear what you're saying.
All right, okay, fine. Yes, so it's concerning the speed indicator. We live at 35 Lodge Farm Court. Our garden backs onto Hanslope Road, or up to Hanslope Road, and we've now got a permanent speed indicator the other side of our garden wall, which we weren't consulted about, we're not very happy about. It's quite a large permanent piece of metal with the solar panel, you know, sticking out. It's much bigger than the temporary one that we had before. And we'd like it moved. It's flashing all the time. I can see it from all of my back windows, from nearly everywhere in our garden.
Okay. All right, well, I mean, Dave, to whom you spoke, and Jackie, have both, and I have been discussing this since you first spoke today.
Yeah.
Jackie has spoken to the company involved, Traffic Technology, and they have tried to reorient it as best they can on the current post.
Have they been out to do that?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry.
I didn't see that.
They can't lower it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they've lowered it as far as they can. You have to have, I think it's 2.1 meters height under the traffic regulations or highways regulations. And they've lowered it as much as they can, and they've tilted it a bit further away, but they can't tilt it any further because otherwise it won't be pointing at the road.
Right, okay.
Now, I would say, as given that I download the data on all of the SID sites, Hanslope Road is the worst road. I mean, you'd expect no less of Hanslope.
Yeah.
But it is very fast coming down there. So we do, and that is actually one of the main sites that the police will enforce at to come out.
Yeah.
So that really is important. As you say, it is in the same place as the previous SID.
It is, but we were told that was temporary. And it wasn't there all the time. But I do think there are better locations that aren't so in our line of sight out of our back window. Back window.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'd like to say that.
You have to come.
Well,
Yeah, just, no, just, I think.
We'll speak loudly.
Having, you know, I think that the fact that it flashes constantly when I'm sitting watching TV is not acceptable.
I don't think they've moved it much.
And the other thing is that having driven around the area, looking Northampton, Milton Keynes, all these machines are not inside on the front of, on the side of any house. They're away from the houses. And that I've looked at everyone. And only in our back of our garden has got one of those machines. And I don't think it's acceptable if you that sits where it does. Now the temporary one was about this size. It went up once.
It's lower, I'm sure, as well.
It didn't go very often.
Yeah,
It never worked most of the time. That's flashing.
yeah.
But you look, what I say, it's not acceptable to have that looking over somebody's back garden. When I have to look at it I get up in the morning, I see it, I sit and watch TV in the morning, I see it flashing. And when the garden is flashing, it's not acceptable. And it's causing me a lot of stress. And that's why I phoned Dave. That's why I brought it up. And I've, you know, it could be moved 10 meters further up the road, and you still get the same information as you get from where it is now. I just don't think it's acceptable. Not even thought it through properly on how it would affect other people. Now, it's actually worse than the cars driving down there at 50, 60 miles an hour, watching this flash all the time. And I think, you know, as a resident of Castlethorpe for 23 years, you know, I find it quite insulting that nobody came to see this.
Right. We didn't consult, but on the other hand, you know, there are two that have been put up now, and we've also been operating the other SID for about 7 years, I think it is. And actually what we do, or Dave very kindly moves it round, and we rotate around the 4 entrances of the village. And depending on how cold it is, because it's battery run, it lasts somewhere between 4 and usually 6 days, I think now. And then we recharge it and move it on again. We do two in one place, turn it around. So it will have been there, as I say, for 7 years. And it was in the same place.
Oh, really?
Although we didn't consult, I would say that this was in we mentioned this certainly in our news. We've been talking about it in the Parish Council meetings, but I do understand it. People don't always watch these. But we did put it in the news, quite I think penultimate news, and we actually specifically put it in the news in August. And if there were, particular concerns, that would have been the time. Now, the reason I'm saying this,
Well, can I just say something?
yeah, well, okay.
I don't look at the news, the parish news every week.
No, every quarter.
Every quarter. I don't look at it. Well, for whatever reason. Because most of the village, we're quite happy that we all get them the rights. Now, I wasn't happy when the temporary ones stood up. And I did make.
It wasn't temporary, by the way. It was a permanent.
Can I just say something? That's full time one there. The previous one was taken off and it will put up every so often. That's what happened. It's quite different to be permanent. And I don't care what you think, it's not acceptable. Because if I put that outside your front door, you would be very happy.
Yeah, the point I'm
Would you be
making.
happy with I'm sorry, Rich.
Yeah, look,
I think, no, can I just say this?
Yeah.
I would like to say that Milton Keynes Council need to do something about it. Because it's not acceptable where it is.
right. What I'm saying, I was answering your first point about consultation, and I do have to say there are a lot of things that are announced in or put into Castlethorpe News. And really, it's not a big document, and people work very hard to produce it. And it's one just about to come out, actually. And I really would commend you to look at it, because you will see things that are coming out in there. And if you had concerns, because as you say, there are a lot of these around in the neighbouring villages, you might have then expressed concern. But moving on to the substantive point, which is moving it. The poll, and it has taken us at least 6 months, isn't it? More than 6 months to have the poll replaced by a taller one. Because that's how long Milton Keynes Council takes to do things, particularly the Highways Department. And I mean, things like, the mean time for them to do stuff is usually measured around about a year. We've got curbstones that are knocked out around the village that I've been reporting for a year that still haven't been addressed. We've had street nameplates which take up to 2 years to get replaced. It really does take a very long. So it's not going to get moved. If we were to commit it, it's not going to happen in the very short term. It will be at least 6 months. It will be there. I'd also mention that there's quite a considerable cost involved in this. I mean, I think it was about 350 quid for Milton Keynes to put the post in. I can't remember the exact number. I think it was about that. We also had to pay for Traffic Technology, who are the people who installed it, because Dave can't touch it, otherwise avoid the warranty, to come out and install it. And we'd have to pay for them to come out and install, and then to remove it later. So we're probably talking about spending up, around about £1,000 by the time you've got 2 Traffic Technology trips and a new Milton Keynes Council, and at least 6 months, even if we were to, but we can't agree.
So I would like to request that it is moved.
Yeah.
As soon as possible.
Okay.
To a place which everybody knows the road. I think we should have a camera there which charges, it goes straight to the house and get charged for speeding, because I think that what it does, it doesn't slow the guys who are fast down. We had somebody go through there yesterday at 55 miles an hour. And you know why? Because I stood there in the kitchen watching it. And it doesn't slow the
Actually, that's interesting. Did it actually show 55 miles an hour?
It did.
Well, I thought we'd actually
55 miles. It was 50. It was about 50.
Yeah, it's all right. I mean,
And
it's
you're
just a side point, but
Yeah.
we had actually asked for it not to display speeds over 45, I think it was. Because there have been people,
And
I know that Darren Merritt has seen people on Bullington End Road who basically have raced it.
No, I think that's what's there, they do that, nothing else.
But anyway,
But if we
Yeah.
can sort something out,
well,
where it's moved, there's
Yeah.
something going to Milton's Castle. It can move and still work the same, up the road by about 10-15 meters, and it would be, wouldn't bother anybody who's thereabouts. And, I would appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because there's also nothing effect of valuation of the house. I mean, how would you like to try and sell a house with a speed camera?
Yeah.
Sitting outside your
Well, look,
back door? No.
what I can say is that it's not on our, it's in the open forum and under correspondence. It's not a resolution tonight. No, you may, I know this sounds technical, but we can't make decisions unless there are resolutions. So we couldn't spend the money until we have a resolution. So we'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting, which is the 8th of January. And the council will have to decide whether it's prepared to do that. In the meantime, Jackie, if I could ask you to talk to traffic technology and find out what would be the cost of moving that, and also, God forbid, and Milton Keynes Highways, who are, I mean, I have got a complaint in them. I'm sorry, there's two other councillors want to speak. Steve.
Yeah, I just wondered, is there no way to shield it or mask it?
That's exactly what I was going to ask. Like we have lamp
Yeah.
posts.
Jackie has spoken, we did consider this. Jackie has spoken to traffic technology about whether there's a shield that could go on the inside. And there isn't that they do. Now, they have said that we might be able to do one ourselves, and I think that might be something that we could look at. But it would be what I have said. I don't, we can look at doing that, but not. We mustn't make it a bodge.
Could I just say, I'm not sure that's something you would want to consider anyway, is it? You made pretty clear that you want to be moved.
If that was a temporary mitigation to us watching it going on and off, it would help.
Well, it's interesting
But
because
we'd still want it to be moved,
yeah,
yes.
that's the bottom,
Yeah.
you want it moved, because I was
Yeah.
going to suggest if you could even put a tree in between your house. Well, you'll have, but there's got
Yeah.
complaints with the new lampposts that have gone in, with people who are complaining that the trees are
It takes a while for a
obstructing the
tree to
light.
grow though, doesn't it, Dave?
Well, you can put a bit of a mature tree in there, it'll
That'd be
cover it.
cost more than getting the.
But that's not.
That is an option, yes.
Dave, I think if there's an opportunity where we can have it moved. And I apologise if I didn't use that in the last quarter, I'm a busy person. But, I would seriously like to.
Okay, well, we'll consider it on the next meeting.
And if you could find the cost of it to move it, so we know what the costs are. And the timescale within reason.
Yeah, Milton Keynes Council won't give us a timescale. I mean, the streetlight project is currently running, just coming up to 2 years late. Yeah, I mean, it's just, they're just not good. But the costs, I mean, the trouble is with the costs, I mean, we asked Milton Keynes Highways, just give me an example. I mean, you may detect some frustration of mine dealing with them. We asked them for the costs of putting in a 4.5 metre post instead of the existing 3 metres. They have to be longer to take the solar arrays on top. And he said £1,000 a post. So we said, what? £1,000 to take one post out of the ground and put another one in the same place. Oh, he said, you don't know what the cost of steel is these days. I mean, they'll just give a ridiculous, yes, you do. But when it turned out, it was 350 quid. I mean, so they just say silly things. I could go on and on. But we will ask the questions, and with whatever information we've got at our next meeting, we'll see if we can make a decision. Would you be prepared to make any contribution towards it?
Let's see what the numbers are. Let's come back on the 7th and see what your numbers
Yeah,
are.
numbers.
Okay.
Possibly, yes.
Okay.
And if you want to come and have a look from the garden or any of the windows, please,
Yeah.
just knock on the door. Because I think you'd appreciate really how stressful it is to see that flashing on and off all day long. It ain't much. It's not good. It's not great now and it's dark. When it's in the summer, sitting in the garden, Yeah,
Okay,
It's-
all right, well, we'll do that. I think we probably ought to
Yeah.
to stop now.
All right, yeah.
We're well over the
Yeah,
the
okay,
15
yeah.
minutes stop. Okay,
cool.
you're
Thank
welcome
you.
to say, but obviously. This is why you can. All right, okay, thank you. Are there any other matters to be open for? No, okay. In that case, let's move into the meeting itself. So apologies for absence from Ian by way of illness, actually. Not feeling too good. Darren, I think, is
Childcare.
childcare issues. Is that all of us? 4 or 5, yes, it's all of us. Declarations of interest in any of the items.
I've an interest in 5.6 because it's my next door neighbour, and also the payment schedule.
Okay. Right, minutes of the last meeting. Are there any matters of accuracy in the minutes that anyone would like to raise? No? In that case, can I have a proposer and a seconder? I need Steve, and all in favour. I find the minutes. Right, we now move into reports. So clerk's report next. So let me just call that up. And first of all, are there any questions? Let's take the first page. That's items 1 to 16. Are there any matters on items 1 to 16 that any councillor would like to raise? Steve.
Just a small thing on 16. I raised a thought on the swale area and the other area, leisure area at Carrington Grove, Paddock Close. They cut it back, but my complaint / inquiry was asking for that to be on a regular schedule. And I haven't had any response from Milton Keynes Council at all to my complaint / inquiry. I've phoned them, and as usual, no answer. So I've left a voicemail, and I've also emailed them to try and get an answer. But as far as that goes, we want those 2 areas, the cutting of those 2 areas on a regular schedule. We want the bottom bit of Carrington Grove laid to grass, which they obviously haven't done. The big weeds are just, I mean, I don't know if this can do a hell of a job to get that. And we've still got the blocked waterway,
Yeah.
the culvert. Well, we've got 2, they're both blocked. So, like I say, I've dropped in an email, but haven't had anything back as yet.
I did see one reply, Steve, where they more or less said, "Oh, we didn't know we had to."
Who said that?
That was initially, that's quite a while.
Oh, was that quite a while?
Yeah, that was, I mean, they go through, they've gone through denial every time. We've raised it to Stonewall directly about 4 times.
Okay.
And each time they've denied all knowledge of having to do this, but it was a condition of the planning.
Yeah.
That
Maybe we raised the planning enforcement case.
I've raised it as an enforcement case, but that was 3 months ago. So I wouldn't be surprised to hear that it's been closed, because they did cut back those 2 areas, the swale and the other area.
Just in time for that.
Okay. Well, you should have been notified of it being
No,
closed.
not a
But,
word, but they don't. They just
Yeah.
don't. They just close it.
Oh, right again, and if you don't get a response, write to Victoria, the boss. Yeah,
Sure.
the name.
Russell,
you wanted to say
yeah, I was just on that. I've had several inquiries at the council which have been closed without being resolved.
Yeah, I had several. I
Yeah,
had
they do.
Curtis notes and so on. They said, "Oh yeah, we
Yeah.
just close it." Yeah.
Right, 15 litter bins for Shepperton Close. I think we agreed at the last meeting to unilaterally go ahead with them.
Yes, I have to say, I looked at this today. And anyway, I was on action on the.
I spoke to my contact
Yeah.
in Shepperton Close,
Yeah.
and she says that, well, I think it was where it was suggested by the trees in the middle was where the old bin used to be, and that
Yeah.
used to be a logical place.
Have we got a bin there, a bench?
I don't know.
There's like a planter.
Yeah,
Concrete
there's something.
But the reason it was still on there was because we said about replacing it, but then it was who's renting it.
Well, I mean, I think if we just put it there, and then either I will ask Kevin Wilson if he will add it to the schedule.
That was, yeah.
Unfortunately, when I've asked this in the past, he has taken a very firm line that they won't add any more. In which case we would have to empty it ourselves if we have an employee who is prepared to.
I don't know if that's doing right. So you go back to Shepperton.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to see what we can do.
Kevin did say that that place was unsuitable, and we did raise with him that there'd been a litter bin there before, but he has said that it's not a suitable place for a litter bin.
I don't think the regulations regarding litter bins have changed substantially in less than 50 years. Have they?
No.
All right, well, all right, I will. What do you want to do, like, Kevin, before we put it in?
No, you just say no, right?
You just say no. Let's just put it in and we'll have to see what we can do. It might be possible, you know, because it's not going to be a heavy use bin. To see if we can find one of the residents there who'll just stick it in with their black bag. Now we've got these wonderful big. We'll see if we can find someone who will be prepared to help us. Any other matters arising from the clerk's report? Okay.
27 Stonewater have agreed that the S106 money could be used towards a preschool if one is set up.
That's good. Yeah, thank you for doing that. Unfortunately, it probably is a moot issue, but there we go. Okay, in that case, Alison.
Okay, there was a couple of things from me. I spoke to Liam because he had asked for an update on your complaint about highways. Apparently Stuart Poppet is dealing with it, but he doesn't have the timescale at which they're going to come back to you. Probably no surprise there. But on one of the bigger meetings we had, and I had at the end of last week, was about housing and placemaking, and they were talking about the new city plan.
Yeah.
And again, having spoken to Hampton, Castlethorpe, Hanso, there is going to be a consultation process in January and February with any of the parishes that potentially has a site following the call for land.
Yeah.
So when they did the call for land, they finished the first sift where they're absolutely not viable. They should be completing the second sift by the end of this year. And then they'll come, if there's any potential development sites in any of our parishes, we'll be notified. So one of the things that we were thinking happening, because obviously I deal with all the different parishes, is maybe having a parish award meeting, bringing everybody together and trying to get it onto the calendar for, say, the end of January, if they're saying January, February, because again, I asked them to reiterate exactly when the timings would be.
Yeah.
And I think that might be a sensible.
Yes, I mean, what's happening, you know that, I don't know if you were there or not, but the MALT conference that we had on the 22nd, I spoke to Andrew Turner, the development plans manager.
Yeah.
And one of the points I said was granularity. I said, you know, you can't go around and see every individual parish.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if you get all the parishes together, you're going to have very different. I followed up actually with an email spelling all this out.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to have very different views from the urban parishes who are all about regeneration.
Yeah.
And so to us, and I think Ward would be good. Almost, if you look at a map, it's north of the Ouse.
Yes.
You know, that's the area really. Because Lavendon were very worried as well, that they were going to get dogged in. But certainly, I think for those of us in your ward,
Absolutely,
that
bring us
would
all
be-
together.
That would be good and should be manageable actually as
Yeah.
well.
And I'm going to try and get a commitment for a date before Christmas
Yeah.
to happen toward the end of January.
Make sure Richard Pryor's available.
Yes, absolutely. Oh,
Richard-
don't worry.
Richard is definitely-
We're in contact with lots of different people on this.
Yeah, I mean, we're putting all this out for mail stuff to one side. Richard is the man.
But just further to that, some of the stats that they brought up that I certainly wasn't aware of, because there's been various numbers flying around that there's going to be 50,000 more houses, 75,000 more houses, all this kind of thing. Now, even under what's currently been allocated and either has full planning permission or is going through the process on already pre-agreed development sites, there's still another 24,000 houses to be built. So I think my initial understanding, thinking there were going to be potentially 50 or 75,000 brand new houses in Milton Keynes, made me exceptionally worried. They've still got quite a lot to fulfill. Another 13 years worth by their standards. So if it's almost 1,800 a year is their target to build. So anyway, we'll have the results from the call to land, call for sites. We'll get everybody together. And I think it makes sense to have a joint approach across our villages here, if we're going to potentially have any sites that they've identified. So yeah, that was the main thing. The only other thing I hope it's appropriate to bring up, I know that you're going to be talking about it later about Dobbiesfield. I just wondered if you've spoken to Newport Pagnell Town Council, because they've already been through this process of turning an open space into a village green.
All right.
And I'd happily put you in touch with Shar if you haven't met her, because I'm sure you have.
Everyone's in that shop.
Absolutely. But
Yeah.
they've done a really good job. So I just thought to help minimise the
Who was the
time.
councillor involved? I don't suppose it was Phil Windsor, was it?
I don't honestly.
No. Yeah,
I'm
well,
sure-
because Shara, I know, is very busy and she'll
Yes.
probably want to pass it on to the councillors involved. But yes, that would be,
Absolutely.
I think that would be helpful because I don't think we were aware of that.
Yeah,
Or
'cause
were
they-
you? No.
They've done that with Westbury Fields,
Yeah.
because again, they were worried about it being developed on and have done all the evidence base, but they also have taken all the legal advice. So I just thought to expedite your process, you've probably got a good resource there.
Yeah,
They'll know what some of the pitfalls are as well as the
yeah,
wins.
that'd be very helpful actually. Yeah, if we could.
Great stuff, Olivia. I'll contact her and just say who's the best
Thank you,
person
yeah,
to speak
yeah.
to and link up. And that's.
Stephen.
I've just got one more, question for Alison, well, not for Alison, really, from Milton Keynes Council on call for sites.
Yes,
They talk about eligibility and suitability of proposed sites to get into, they're obviously doing SIT and whatever passes the suitability criteria will get into the draft plan. But nobody knows what the suitability criteria are.
no, and it was something that I'd asked, and they said the first SIFT is where it's just absolutely not feasible. So, for example, what was the thing? So if it's a known floodplain,
Okay.
things like that they will automatically take out. They haven't given full details of exactly what the sifting criteria is, but I do actually, if anything, I was slightly heartened that they were being very open to feedback and to being pushed for details. And, you know, when we look at some of the MK East and some of the other expansions, they're looking at big sites that can deliver 5,500 houses and a hospital and a doctor's surgery and shops and a school and things. So we'll just have to wait and see what comes out.
Yeah, I mean, the key thing is that we get the opportunity to discuss it before the draft plan is produced.
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely, because the hard
That's
stop.
absolutely key, because once it's produced, it's devil of a job to get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I did make that point to Edward Turner when we met on the 22nd. Yeah.
Absolutely, and then so the whole process has got to be finished by June 2025.
Yeah.
So the sooner that's why I thought it made sense if we all get together.
Yeah.
Indeed, the only other thing I was going to say is on some of these planning enforcement and I mean highways, I've had an awful lot of problems myself. It's quite disheartening. But some of the other teams I found incredibly responsive and really helpful. So if there are things that you're needing to chase, please do feel free to copy me in, because I often am having a catch up with somebody from planning or housing or whichever team. So just in case it helps, if you're getting some frustration, please just
Yeah, no, I mean,
me into the.
you're right. I mean, my own experience is that it's very variable. You get some officers who are bend over backwards.
Yeah.
To be hopeful, respond and all the rest of it. Including some in planning. I mean,
Yeah.
the lady who handled the clubhouse was very helpful to us. But highways at the moment seem to be going through an absolute nadir. It's just dreadful. And when you say Stuart Prophet, I mean, I wrote to Stuart Prophet, which may have been the situation last. Then Rachel Monday wrote back to me about a light on the boundary of Gobbies and Fish Ponds, where they're put in a city light. And she just said, oh, it's because it wasn't suitable, a heritage lifestyle wasn't regarded as suitable in that location. And I then wrote again to Stuart Prophet and said, this is just nuts, you know, it's completely outrageous. I probably probably came across in my email actually. And he then wrote back a response to my first complaint, said first thing he said, I've decided to raise this as a formal complaint. And I see that you've written a second one, which I'll respond to, because she hasn't. So I then wrote again and I said, look, I see you've raised this as a formal complaint. That wasn't my purpose. Yeah. I said I wanted to discuss this with you informally because it's wrong, rather than going through what will be a very expensive process, because I'll FOI them, you know, so can we have a meeting? And I think that was 2, if not 3 weeks away, and I haven't even had a courtesy of a holding response from Stuart Prophet.
Yeah, that does
I mean,
seem to be,
it really is
a real
just really appalling.
But yes, well, just drop it if you think it's helpful, because obviously I often go into the civic officers as well. So
I mean, in fairness, I had copies of Kristen and Liam, but not you, because you have some previous meetings. Yeah,
absolutely. And that was it. Well, and just as an FYI from some of the other parishes as well, community speed watch that we've been doing, Hansope and Haversham, and now started in Stoke Boddington's. Really good results. There's also a couple of Christmas socials, just in case you had anybody in the village who was interested in behind it.
I have hand up on that, and I've had an action to get something set up, and I haven't done yet.
Well, then I'll extend an invitation to the Christmas drinks and come and get your enthusiasm from the rest of them.
I'll take a drink from him.
I went through the house of one this morning, did you? Yeah. Well, it's 65. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I think we ought to.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll get Charlotte and find out who the right person is.
Thanks very much.
No problem.
That's great. Right, I'll give a report on the clubhouse. I will go through, although most of it's on the website, as I said, some of it has changed. We have in the last month signed the contract with Hickford's to do the conversion of the interior of the pavilion and construct the building of the clubhouse extension. Work was meant to have started this morning. When I walked by at 10, they hadn't. I went by about 10 AM, but I mean, it's probably weather anyway. They're expected to start imminently. They expect to finish the pavilion by the end of March and the clubhouse a month or so later. And cricket have arranged away matches at the beginning of their season to make sure that they don't need the clubhouse before it's ready. Luke Jeffries is going to supervise the work on our behalf. He is a professional construction project manager and resident in Cllr Close, and he'll be supported by Lawrence Chapman, who drew up the specification, Ian Horn, who's also got professional qualifications, works in this housing, and me for Parish Council liaison. There will be some change orders we will have to put through because they weren't included in the original quote, simply because it was getting into too much detail. We've got to put in some lighting in the car park, a bicycle rack, which I think is about 70 quid, so it's not a huge amount. The location of the electrical sockets, and it says, and in the report, there's a discussion about high-level windows. There isn't anymore. We've agreed that we'll wait until phase 2 is identified, and then we'll either go for windows or an extractor fan or whatever. So that's a change. There's a resolution to delegate change order authorisation to Steve, Darren and me to authorise then Jackie as our proper officer to sign change orders, and that's an item on the agenda. We just have to agree what the amount is, but there will be these small things that come through, as with any construction project, and we can't reasonably wait for a month for that to be signed off. The S106 agreement was signed by Milton Keynes Council. First payment was made to our Bank of Ireland account, and it has been transferred into a separate interest bearing business interest access account at Lloyd's, which through serendipity was we actually already had. I don't think we realised we had it, but that's interest bearing, and that's what's required by Milton Keynes Council. There were two conditions that had to be discharged before work could start. The archaeologist had to write a scheme of investigation, which was to be signed off. And the chief archaeologist at Milton Keynes Council has now done that informally, i.e. he's written to us and said, yes, that's okay. He actually wrote and said he wanted these changes. Changes were made and he said, yes, this is okay. And we also had to have a final check for bats, which was done. And at the same time, we put up bat boxes because it was going to save a repeat visit by the Batman. And that would have cost 300 quid or something, so it saved 300 quid. There are some minor changes required. Oh, and so this would be of interest not to you. So Jackie has gone to put in the discons and found that every time you put in a discon, it's 180 quid, thank you, cha-ching. So there's this little money raising wheeze that Milton Keynes Planning have got, which is you put loads and loads of conditions on any planning permission, and then every time someone comes in to discharge one, you go, oh, another 180 quid, please. Anyway, there you go. There are some minor changes required to the original planning permission, a new fire exit at the back, and some couple of other very minor ones, retention of a fire exit door, and a change to a lobby window. And these will be submitted as have been submitted as non-material amendments. Ching ching, 298 pounds. Anyway, there you go.
On a positive note, the council say that this is a cunning way to keep council tax down.
Yeah, yes, I'm sure. So an architect has, at a very reasonable cost, less than the cost of the NMAs, in fact, less than half the cost of the NMAs themselves, done the drawings for the NMAs, and these are now on the website, so everyone can see the layout that we're now planning. So we're now into phase 2, which is the fit out, and we're preparing under Steve's leadership grant applications for the Community Foundation, which Russell is actually doing, waste recycling and national lottery, a couple of other small opportunities being pursued. We're trying to position the clubhouse as a community space, so it's not just a bar, it will be somewhere where I hope, and this all depends on what the village wants, of course, a place where you can go and get a morning coffee, and perhaps even if you want to work up there, there'll be Wi-Fi and you'll be able to have a kind of Costa Coffee time cafe working environment, which may suit some people who I know are working from home and don't necessarily have a table and chair that they can use. It's sitting on a bed. A detailed service offering and associated costs are being prepared with different options. That's what Lawrence is doing. And we've got a reference visit to a similar club to look at how they run. The fit out will be done once funding is obtained, but obviously can't start until construction is complete, which, as I've already said, is not going to be until April or May. So by the time we get the grant funding, which I would guess, if we get it, would be in the middle of next year, then you've got to actually let contracts to the suppliers, and then they've got to do the fit out. So I think we're probably looking at sort of the autumn of next year as being the earliest possible date for the clubhouse, and it might not be then if we can't get the funds raised. We have also inquired about using public art funding, because there's some S106 provision for that as well. Both on the front of the clubhouse and at the on the front of the village shop extension, as it happens, because they're both owned by the Parish Council. Jackie and I have actually got a call with a lady called Louise Ayles, who I have met before, who's in charge of public art funding. We've got a Teams call next Monday. So just want to talk about phase 3, as I call it, which is operation. And we've always said that there'll be some form of organisation between us as the owning Parish Council and the clubhouse operation itself. And a lady called Bridget Richards, who's done a number of, she runs her own small business, did a review of various options for us, such as applying for charitable status and so on and so forth. And eventually recommended that a community interest company was formed, which is the same form as we use between the Parish Council and the shop to run the shop association. There's some urgency on this, because some of the grant applications can't be made by Parish Council. They have to be made by another organisation, such as the CIC. So we did delegate authority to go ahead with that at our last Parish Council meeting. And so we have gone ahead. We formed a company. It's called Castlethorpe Community Space CIC. And our application is no longer with Companies House. It has been approved. So we have got that. CCS-CIC will run the clubhouse, be responsible for good conduct in it, for utility and other bills and licenses. Now, this bit is relevant because I'm just going to, later on, we've got a resolution. I'm going to ask councillors just to endorse this as the modus operandi. Let me repeat, it'll be responsible for the good conduct inside and outside the premises, for the utility and other bills and licenses, such as performing rights and alcohol licenses, if we need that. Well, I hope we will need that. To employ a steward or manage volunteers to run it, and maintain the register of members, and it will obviously have to have its own bank account. And I think we're going to try to open one with Lloyd's, given that 3 of us are already Lloyd's signatories. 3 of the directors are already Lloyd's signatories, which should help in opening an account. There'll be 4 classes of member, 4 members, which is open to everybody on the electoral roll of the parish. And I think honorary members, which is intended for people who don't live in the village but have a close association, such as members of the various sports teams. So they come here every week. And I think it'd be odd if David Spinelli wasn't allowed to be a member. Junior members, who will be the responsibility of the sponsoring full or honorary member for their conduct, but obviously there aren't people under the age of 18. And day members, such as visiting sports players. So a cricket team comes in, their team members will be signed in as day members. There's no intent to charge a membership fee. We'll invite membership when we're confident of an opening date. It's a bit silly to do it at this stage. We don't have a clubhouse at all. The initial directors of the CIC are Luke Jeffries, Ian Horn and Lawrence Chapman, who are all part of the project board that has taken the project this far. And then Steve Bradbury, Russell and me. And we will serve to supervise the fitting out and establishing of the clubhouse until the membership is established, at which point a general meeting will be held and the members, members of the parish, will then elect new directors and set the direction of the club. So I did want to go through that in some detail because that is the kind of vision that we've got, and there is a resolution which I hope will now be a relatively quick one to explain as to how we're expecting it to go. Any questions at this stage on the clubhouse report? Okay. Right, in that case, let's move on then to the planning applications. 5.1 is our own applications, so I imagine we don't have any comments on that. And incidentally, no one has commented other than Network Rail to say they don't have a problem, which you'd be surprised if they did. Lodge Farm Court is 17 Lodge Farm Court is I'm sorry, did anyone want to comment on our own application? No. 5.2 is 17 Lodge Farm Court, which is a 2-storey rear extension, which is a resubmission of a previous application, which I don't think has changed an awful lot, actually. Excuse me. Does anyone wish to make any comment about, raise any potential objections to this? Okay, no comment. 5.3 is a tree order under a tree preservation order at 19 Shepperton Close. And basically it's a Scots pine which from the arborologist report looks as if it's in very poor condition and needs taking down. It's one of a row actually.
It's a real shame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But have you read the arborologist report?
Well, I can see the tree from my backyard.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's a shame because it's
going to leave a gap as well, isn't it?
well, it will, but it's just been not looked after. If that ivy going into the top of it, and
Yeah.
it's just the way it is. Yeah, but real shame.
I did notice there are some maintenance recommendations by the arborists on the other trees in that row. But
Well, we get ours still a couple of years. So.
Yeah. Anyway, on this, any objection? Any councillor want to raise an objection to this?
Yeah.
Noted. Discharge of conditions, 5.4 is discharge of conditions at the former station yard. Now, I did look at this when it came up. If you would permit me, it's incredibly complicated. It's a really detailed mapping, topological mapping of the way the water would be would flow and be disposed of. I think my personal recommendation would be to leave this to the experts from the King's Council. I mean, they objected to the first time he put this in for discharging conditions, presumably on for good reason. And I imagine they'll look at this.
Did Angry Water object as well?
Yeah.
So I mean, they're statutory consultants.
Yeah, yeah. Does anyone want to add anything to that, or shall we just leave it to the King's Council? Yeah. Okay, in that case, just noted. And then 2 further tree orders. One at Chestnuts. This is Chestnuts in South Street. You all know that property.
Isn't it really?
Yeah. I think that. Any objections? No, noted. And similarly, 6 South Street. I have to say the giant sequoia, you could see that that's in a bad way and needed coming out. I'm not quite so convinced on the cypress compressor, but well, there we go.
The shame again.
Anyway, and do we want to raise any? No.
Yeah.
Okay, noted then. Right, we'll take section 6 as a block, as usual. These are, for those of you watching, these are previous planning applications that are in progress, some of which have been permitted, some of which are still in progress. Actually, 6.2 was permitted today, which is something with Chestnuts, which is Udi and Dina's house next to the shop. Permission came through, and yeah, you can see 6.5 is the one we just discussed anyway. Oh no, 17 the checkers, not 17 Fox. No, that's fun. I don't think we normally comment on that unless there's anything that we've already commented. Right, so we now move to resolutions. So I propose to consider and agree on publicly excluded part 2 of the meeting to discuss these quotes, which we, as a competitive quotes, we have to keep those confidential. If I propose, I need a seconder, which is Russell, and all in favour. You okay with it, Steve?
Yeah, fine.
Yeah. So unanimous. Right, 7.2 is to agree to delegate authority to Steve, Darren and myself to authorise the clerk to sign change orders on the clubhouse up to a certain sum.
I will propose that. I'll propose that.
Thank you, yes. We just need to agree the certain number.
How much?
I mean, it depends on what you're comfortable with, and I suppose this is turning really to, well, Russell, Kay and Dave. Cumulatively, I would like to suggest £10,000, because we have got the low level lighting in the car park, you have got various other things. But if you feel uncomfortable with that and would like to come back and perhaps have it renewed, then I would suggest £5,000, and then we'll take it from there. But it really is, you know, the three councillors involved are not going to sign something off trivially, but it is really your comfort on.
It comes down to whether we trust you or not.
Well, no, it comes down to whether you,
Yeah,
whether you want this.
it's a lot of money, yeah.
Yeah. This is part of the public works loan that we would have to take. I mean, to be clear, of the money that we have already authorised that we would borrow, we are currently proposing to use, I think it's 12,000 of it. Yeah. The rest would go to fitting out the clubhouse, but we will have to do things. These won't be choice. These are things that we will just have to do. Low level lighting is part of the planning, for example. What else did I say? The kitchen extractor fan, if we come to it, will be part of what you've just got to do to make the kitchen habitable. But if you feel uncomfortable, go for the lower number, and we'll bring it back.
I mean, certainly, and I'm not going to sanction anything that's not been kind of approved by the project board, including Lawrence, Luke, Ian, who are experts in that particular.
Yes. Well, they'll bring it to us, won't they?
So it will be, although officially it will be the three of us signing it off, it will actually be the project board, including the experts that actually make the decision. So.
I mean, if we say take it down to 5,000, anything above that would have to come to the meeting to discuss and agree, wouldn't it?
Well, I'll tell you what we could do. What we could do is we could say, give us 5,000 for this next month, where Luke is just starting the project off. And we'll review again in January. We'll make it a standing item while this build is going on.
Yeah.
And if we've used some of it and we need to top up the 5,000, then we'll ask you to top it up a bit.
I'd be more comfortable with that.
That's
Okay,
yeah, that's okay. All right. So Russell's proposing that. Can Steve and I vote on this?
I was wondering about that, by the way.
I think we'll abstain. Shall we, Steve?
Yeah, well,
And
yeah,
so it's the three of you then.
You're
You're for it.
Luke,
Okay. Good. 7.3 was to agree in principle the modus operandi of Castlethorpe Community Space CIC. That's just what I spent some time explaining. So it is this interim body and the sort of responsibilities that it will have. And for us to sort of formally, by this resolution, agree that it can go on and carry on acting in that capacity.
Yeah. No problem, so.
Are you comfortable?
Yeah.
Okay.
Presumably by going down this route, it opens up a lot more opportunities for grants, etc. and stuff like that, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yes, it's the two that Steve is taking, National Lottery and Litha. And it has to be really. In fact, yes. Right. That's that. 7.4 is to consider next steps for a village green application for Gobbis. Kay.
I'd like to have a meeting, separate meeting, where we can discuss this, but I would like to okay the evidence for today, because I think that's really important that we get going on that. I've got a number of people contact me, and I would like to actually reply. I have replied to every single one and said that I am in the middle of I am in the process of getting the form, but I would like to start doing that. So I would like Peter Clark has agreed that to help, which I think would be very, very useful for her with his experience. So I'd like to get together at a separate meeting, just sit down round a table and decide actually where we're going with this. I think it's really important to get the form out. I'd like to organise a form filling in session, like one Saturday or maybe a couple of Saturdays, where we actually help people fill it in if necessary. It does seem quite a long form, but actually there's a lot of tick boxes. There's not a lot of writing. It is literally, I've done this, I've done that, I've done that. Here's your.
Can it be done online?
Yeah, I can make it. I can make it into an editable document if you like. I can do that. So I've asked people on the newsletter, which should be going out. Well, I've just had my call to duty for that about delivering. That will be coming maybe this week. So as soon as that goes out, I think we need to be on it. I don't think we should leave it. Like when people have read that, I think that's when they're going to be at their most sort of they're going to be keener to actually to get the evidence then. It would be, I've given my email address to ask about Newport Pagnell, so if they could contact me, that would be brilliant, because I'd really be very interested to know what form they use, but I do think we need to get this one done. And as I said, have a meeting for, I think you should come to this as well, because I'm not very good on the procedures to do with this. So evidence form completion session, the next step meeting. Are we allowed any legal consultation on this? Because I think it has to be a priority, this. I mean, absolutely could wreck our village, and I do feel that there is things spent on.
I mean, you've got to, we'll have to look at it. I mean, we'll come on to budget, but I mean, we are going to be very tight next year because of Clubhouse. It's using, a lot of our reserves. You may well find, and what Alison was saying to you, that Newport Pagnell have taken the legal advice, and you'll be able to use their legal advice. I mean, it won't be binding to you in the same way that if you had employed the lawyer yourself. But you probably don't need that. You just need to know what's involved in it.
But I think that's important that we know exactly where we stand legally.
Did you get anything advice from the Open Space Society?
I have been up to my eyes in it. I literally
there was something there that they do often.
haven't had a chance to breathe. So I will be looking at that pack hopefully this weekend. I had grandson all last weekend, so work is just manic at the moment. So
I mean, you may find it a bit difficult getting hold of the village hall on Saturdays between now and the new year. I mean,
I think it's okay actually.
Is it okay? Anyway, well, next weekend is definitely seniors.
So the evidence historic evidence that you had for sort of turning it into a green space, that is literally just tick boxes. That's not people filling in forms, and I think that needs to be done. If we can contact those people and ask them to do a proper form for it, I think it really does need to be very, very official and all in the right, not just, we did this before, because I looked at the evidence, because Russ, you sent it to me, didn't you? And it is, people have done this, people have done that, people have done that. I think it needs to be individual, not just a collective, because the more forms that we have, the more
relatives can have.
Absolutely.
I think you need to include that as evidence, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. But even if they've done it on that, I'd like them to do it again. I'd like them to do it on official film.
It actually proves, I mean, the concern that people have is that people are just saying, oh, I used it for this, that, and the other. Whereas the video evidence shows.
Video evidence is lovely, and any photographic evidence is lovely, but there's a lot of people who use it and don't take pictures, don't take video and things like that. So the form is them actually putting their name to it and saying, I actually certify that I've done this. I think we should, the housing bit, I mean, we should, if it ever comes to that, talk about the infrastructure. It's just not that we've got no school, as in sort of past we've got a school up at year 1 and 2, we haven't got anything past that. We don't have the facilities for building for houses built on that area. And anyway, but that's in the future. Also what was the other thing? Oh, we did this ransom strip. Now, loads of people tell me there is a ransom strip, that it is fact that it's there. Now, I know for a fact that when the owners of the field or their agents got somebody to mow the field, like we asked them to, they actually told the person who mowed it to
Break it.
break the padlock and go
Yeah.
through the gate. That gate doesn't even belong to them, so they're
Yeah.
already doing illegal because they're
Yeah.
trespassing on people's land and almost vandalism.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important that we try and find this ransom strip, which is where I'm hoping that Peter might come in.
Yeah.
So I think he'd like to get his teeth into that. But if there is a ransom strip, we need to find it.
Yeah.
And we need to find the owners. I know one of them has died, but I think the other one might still be around. But even then, it would have passed to somebody else. So I think we need to do research, research and find this ransom strip and see
Okay.
whose side they're on. Because the reason why it was kept as a ransom strip is because they didn't want them to build on Gobbets. I mean, that's the whole
Originally, that is the case.
Yes.
Whether it's still the case.
Exactly.
Whoever's the
Yeah.
inheritor of that
Yeah.
property. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, look, I think, and I mean, I think I would like just to say for everyone's background, that as you've heard from Alison, Milton Keynes Council is preparing a new city plan, which will take the population to 500,000, which means a lot more houses are going to have to be built, 20-odd thousand houses at least. They've, in preparing for this plan, they have done what is called a call for sites, which is asking landowners to put their land in. And as Alison said, the more extreme examples have been sifted out, and they're now going through a process of sifting out others. But we know, because when we wanted to explore planting some trees at the top of Gobbets, and Steve Bradbury, who was then clerk, spoke to the owners or had an email exchange with the owners, they said that they were going to put that land forward in the next. Yeah, indicated that they were going to put that land forward. So I would expect that that land is in there, as indeed I expect other land is in there. You know, there's quite a lot of other land around the village, and you sort of can't blame the landowners for putting it in. It's our job to try and make sure that development only takes place in appropriate circumstances. Now, we tried in our neighbourhood plan, both neighbourhood plans, to get it designated as a local green space, which is where the video evidence came in, that the examiner wouldn't accept that, and Milton Keynes Council wouldn't accept any challenge to the examiner. So we failed to get it declared as local green space. So our attempt now is to a different angle, which is called a village green. And that's got different criteria. It's not done through a neighbourhood plan. It's done through a separate process, and that's what the Parish Council has given Kay, has asked Kay to lead on, which she's doing with Peter Clark and Leo Dunwoody. So I think everyone's happy. The Kay carries on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I just say that anybody who is watching, please look at the notice in the Castlethorpe News that will be coming through your door very soon, and contact me if you use Gobbets Field. And please fill out an evidence form, because that is really, really crucial. We really don't want that land to be built on. We've been part of our village as a green space for years and years and years, and it'd be nice to be able to pass that on to our future generations.
Yeah. Okay. And what the form basically is asking is if you've used the field other than just the footpath that runs across it, if you've used it to walk your dog more widely, fly kites, play football, anything
Pick
like that.
blackberries, whatever.
Don't fly the kite near the power cable.
So,
Okay.
form, sorry, just to be clear, the form, where do they get the form from?
Okay, so I've put it all on the Castlethorpe News, so they can contact me, and I'll either get forms printed.
Downloadable one on the website.
Yeah, I can put a downloadable one on the website, or I can email it to them. I don't mind, and they can return it to me. So just pop it straight back through the door. I've got a load of names, but I haven't put them in the spreadsheet yet because I haven't had a chance, but I will. So I will put everybody in the spreadsheet, and then I'll have it really organised.
Okay.
So if they want to contact me, if they would be like to fill the form in, and I will please ask. And the further back, the better. You know, if you've been using Gobbets Field for over 20 years, that is brilliant. That is exactly what we need.
Okay, thank you very much, Kay. Right, let's move on to 7.5. which is the reappointment of Davina Brown as a parish appointed trustee, charity for the poor of Castlethorpe. It sounds rather odd, I know, but there is a charity. It owns a field which it leases out, and the proceeds of that are given. I think it's to single villagers over the age of 70, I think, isn't it? Something like that anyway. But it's administered by trustees, and this is just to reappoint Davina. I'll propose, unanimous. To approve the purchase, installation, and remembrance plaque to be sited next to the redwood tree on the triangle.
It's a no for me then.
This is just a small floor level one, ground level one, just in memory of Vic. I think Marcia is organising one anyway, so it's just a matter of us agreeing that we can reimburse it. Okay, all in favour? To consider opening an interest-bearing account to replace the Bank of Ireland account. It turns out that the Bank of Ireland account isn't actually paying any interest. So it's a stupid place for us to keep our money. It gets paid into this account by Milton Keynes Council. And it's then drawn down upon as the year goes by, plus our reserves are in there. So we ought to get interest on it. So this is a proposal to open one. Now, the interesting thing is whether we open it with Lloyds. The advantage of opening with Lloyds is it will make transfers from the interest-bearing account into our current account much easier. The disadvantage is that there is, of course, a maximum limit of £85,000 that would be indemnified for. If I can put it this way, though, if we have reserves that are around about 30,000, and we have a precept which is paid in two halves of, say, roundly 40,000, so 20,000 a time, we're actually unlikely to have more than about 50,000. Now, we do temporarily have it because we just received this S106 money from Milton Keynes Council. We just got to hope that Lloyds Bank doesn't go bust before the end of March. Actually, before the end of January, really. But I mean, I personally think that the risk of it not being indemnified is fairly low. But actually, I don't think we're really going to, in practical terms, likely to have much more than 85,000 in there anyway.
No.
So I would like, it would be a lot easier, wouldn't it? Because we're all signatories already. It's a real pain in the backside to go around changing signatories on these double signatory accounts. So I'm going to propose that if Jackie in researching finds that there is a much better account from someone else, but you can go to places like Monceau and Starling and so on, but parish councils, there are only certain accounts which are permitted for parish councils, aren't there? I think you've been through this. And I don't think those are. I think those are.
I was just wondering whether any of them actually attract interest. Because they tend to be business accounts, and if they're instant access, then I don't know. Have we looked yet?
No.
Yeah.
Because it has by contract to be interest bearing.
Yeah. Well, the one we've got at the moment, the business instant access, does give interest.
What, the Lloyds account?
Yeah. The second, no, not the current account.
Not the treasurer's.
There's a second account that we actually had automatically, into which the S106, the 130,000 that came through from the S106 for the clubhouse has been paid.
That's been paid into Bank of Ireland.
It has, but it was then transferred into Lloyds, and it was in that interest-bearing account as of this morning because I checked. Oh, things happen at the speed of light these days.
I'm missing something.
Yeah.
So we have a Lloyds interest-bearing account.
Yeah.
It's very small.
Yeah.
Yeah, but contractually, if
Yeah.
it has to be
It means
interest bearing. It could be 0.1%.
Yeah. I mean, it is only 1 point something percent, so it's not a great deal, but it meets the criteria. And we just needed to get that money into a separate interest-bearing account to fulfil the conditions of Milton Keynes Council in giving us the S6.
And we couldn't change the
Yeah.
bank that they paid it into because that was in the agreement and
Yeah.
we have to start the process again.
So
Okay.
I think what I'm really proposing is that we let Jackie look at other interest-bearing accounts, that we certainly authorise Lloyd's if it's got a decent and competitive level of interest with the other accounts that we might otherwise have. And let Jackie open it. If it's uncompetitive and she finds another one, that's great. And we'll deal with that later. I've said March because frankly, I don't want to close the Bank of Ireland account until the first instalment of the 2024-5 precept has been paid, because I wouldn't trust Milton Keynes Council to get it wrong and pay it into a dead account. Yeah. So we'll open a new account, we'll tell Milton Keynes Council about it, but we'll leave the other one open until that money has been.
Yeah, there won't be any penalty about running an account with nothing in it, or we can leave £5 in it or something.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. So that's my proposal, that's Jackie's proposal really, but I'll put it forward. Any questions? I propose
Financially, so I'll second it.
Sorry?
Financially, so I'll second it.
Okay, good, then all in favour. Right, if we can go then on to the payment schedule.
I have to recuse myself because I'm on it.
Can you leave the room?
We get to leave the room.
Yeah.
It's all right, we've just gone in the kitchen.
There's that.
I'll join you then, Russ.
We're going to make. Right, so basically looking at the payment schedule, it is first part of it is just routine payments. We've got the VAT boxes, which is the 670. Oh, Steve said to go as well, just about 4 still. It's a bit enough. The lead converters for the Christmas lights, £50. Russell who cleaned the oven for £60. The architect who did the drawings for the clubhouse. And then the big one is the 2 new solar cameras, 7,600. And then we've got the insurance cover that we're going to decide in part 2.
Exactly.
Actually, we're not, it's automatic.
And then the Winter Can Fund donation of £500, which we're paying that to the church, are we?
Yes.
Yeah. So they're going to run some winter warming. I think they do that in Hounslow, don't they? Yeah.
Yeah, and in New Hampshire as well.
Oh, do they in Hampshire as well? So we'll do that. So any questions on this? No? I'll propose then. I need a seconder, Steve. Okay, right, okay. Okay, gentlemen, you can return to the room. Right, so we're now looking at the draft budget that Jackie sent round to us. And I have to say, I think she and Steve have done a really good job on this. Why haven't I got it?
I have to say, Phil, it is still work in progress because I wasn't feeling well last week, and a couple of sessions that we set up to do it, I wasn't well enough to. So Jackie and myself have just done this today over about 4 or 5 hours, but it's not ready for if you like absolute scrutiny. We've actually got some items where we've just taken a stab and we could probably do with a little bit of guidance.
Okay, I mean, I went through this line by line actually, and I thought it was, pretty good.
Yeah, it is pretty good.
And I think I did ring Jackie, and I have got a number of comments about the precept.
Yeah, the precept is something that is still to be determined.
And I did send that an email to you.
Yeah, I had a quick read.
And basically, I think that our base, because I complained about their non-inclusion of Carrington Grove and Old Station Yard in our tax base this time last year, when we thought they were both going to be occupied by April. They gave us £2,000 on top of our normal council tax precept. So I think, as I wrote to you, that our tax base at the moment our precept at the moment, if you use the same band D rate, which was £75.24. Oh, sorry, £78.99, because I think we increased by 4.99% last year, Steve. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was about.
Yeah.
It was, we did. Yeah.
Yeah. So it'd be £78.99, I think. If you then multiply it by 463, which looks as if it's going to turn out to be our tax base, that gives a baseline of 36,572 instead of the 40,432. So
yeah, I mean, I have no idea why they paid us 40,000 last year. I thought it was because that was the actual precept that we received. 40,000.
Yeah. Well, I don't know why it's that high. I mean, I think it should have been 36,572, which is what I said, plus the 2,144, which is the amount they gave us as an extra grant. But that's somewhere I would have thought round about 39,000 rather than 40,000. But hey.
But I mean, they will notify us when they've actually set their
time, which is tomorrow, I think, Alison, isn't it? Yeah, tomorrow.
Which is good.
We need to find their collection rates.
Yeah, they changed the collection rate, which really, I mean, I'd like to have been a fly on the wall for that discussion.
There's questions into the finance team about that, because if they then collect more than they say they are, you don't get it.
That's right. Yeah, because we're minor preceptors.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, the point I'm really making for the purpose of this budget is that I think that number should be 36572.
Okay.
Which is in other words, that's our starting point.
Yeah.
Okay. And then on top of that, we will then add whatever increase that we've got at an increase rate of £365 per percent that we decide to add on. Yeah. Then when I went through the rest of it, I thought it looked very clean, Steve. I really did. I mean, the only thing that I mentioned to Jackie that isn't in there, but it's a trivial sum, is we pay someone to clean the signs and gates every year, unless you've got that under a general figure.
I mean, it would certainly have been a payment last year.
It's been on the RFO.
Yeah. So
Could be on other.
Taking over that. It will certainly be included as a payment in last year.
But it's not a lot of money, it's a few hundred quid.
It's a few hundred.
Yeah. So when I first of all, that's a difference of about 4,000 there. So this would take the grand total down. I've got a calculator. Very roughly, it's going to take it down to about 48,000 as our total receipts proposed next year. We go 36562 as our precept.
Yeah.
The other as they are. So it's about 4,000 less than you've got. Take 4,000 off 52,000. You get 40 well, 48,700 or something,
Yeah,
somewhere around about there. Which, when you then compare it with the expected expenditure, that does look better than I expected.
yeah, that's what kind of concerns me a little bit. I wasn't expecting it to be, like you said, it's going to be about 48 now, and the projected expenditure is about 41. I wasn't expecting it to be in a 7. I was expecting it to be more in the region of 4. So I want to double check it and make sure that there's nothing that we've fundamentally missed.
Yeah, I mean, because actually, well, of course, there are some big things that were lower this year.
Yeah, I mean, the precept was much higher than expected. The interest.
No,
of the sub-
cost this year are nearly 50,000, and you're saying they're going down to 40,000.
Yeah, but we did have an expensive year.
But we had the sports ground and the mower
We had
repairs
some
and
more
things like that.
replacement, football club doors.
And fences. Oh my goodness, did we repair some fences?
The village hall drains. Village hall drains.
So we've had quite a lot of big expenses.
So it might well be right.
Yeah.
I really want to play this, Steve, because Steve and Jackie, because what I don't think would be good is for you just to come back and plonk a revised budget in front of us on the 8th of January.
No,
Because I think we could do with a working meeting of some sort.
I think if we get the finance committee together,
Yeah,
well, we could do that either officially or unofficially, because it'll be the parish council that sanction it.
yeah, I would have an unofficial meeting.
So we can have just a working
Because
group meeting.
formally we have to do it in this meeting.
Yeah.
On the
So,
8th of January.
and of course, we've got the finance councillors defined and allocated. And
We could even do it by Zoom if people are more comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Can we leave that to sort of
Yeah, Jackie and
to sort out?
We'll get it.
I mean, I would get yourselves comfortable with what you've got
Yeah.
and then go for that. The other thing, by the way, I did suggest, which is a cosmetic thing, is that given the amount of capital transactions we've got next year, that you, instead of trying to tuck it on the bottom of this spreadsheet, you just create a second sheet.
Well, yeah, I mean, we did an hour about how to actually calculate clubhouse income, clubhouse expenditure. And it didn't fit neatly in the current structure.
No, I mean, I would have a separate capital account, because it's all capital items really, and just put it over there.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
anyway, that's actually, yeah, I mean, I'm sure we can work it out, whichever way you do it. Is there anything else anyone wants to ask on this? No. So the action is a working meeting, and you can decide whether it's physical or via Zoom.
Yeah,
But we must do it before then, after you've had a further look through this and made sure you're comfortable with the figures. Yeah.
but it's come out okay. I'm reasonably happy with it.
Yeah.
So we do have some questions, but I think, I mean, for example, I think we recognise that the advertising needs there are quite a few non-payers. Up to now, so we've assumed 150 a quarter on that.
I have to say, having read the draft of Castlethorpe News, I thought there was quite a lot of advertising. Yeah, she's done very well. Russell's done very well. I'm not sure who did it. Right.
And the cost of publications, I couldn't really get my head around because they're quite high, but
Yeah, the more pages you do, because you need the advertising and the.
but of course the game is to actually work out what we expect for next year. So, but we'll come back on
Okay,
Okay.
right, that's very good then. Oh, I did send you both the repayment tables for the Public Works Loan Board
Okay.
of 50,000. And there are two ways you can pay it back. You can pay it back with equal repayments. It's called annuity, or EIP, which is equal instalments of principal.
Is that index linked or just equal?
No, they're fixed. They're
So it's fixed, so it's a
fixed rate.
Okay.
But it is 5-point-something% at the moment. Anyway, the point for the budget is that if we borrowed the full £50,000, it would probably cost us, we could do it on a slightly lower rate, but you end up paying more in the long term, you see what I mean? And it's remarkably insensitive to whether you do it over 30 or 40 years, but it's about £4,000 a year.
Right.
So I think we ought to be building in, because I'm pretty certain with the clubhouse that unless, you know, we really do come up trumps on probably all the grants, that we're going to need to, you know, to use that loan to fit it out.
Oh, yeah.
And that won't be enough to fit it out, actually. We'll still have a problem. But that's going to be the least we'll need to do it. And so we ought to be building in about 4,000 as interest payments, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously what we need to capture.
Yeah. You'll see the table that I sent through.
And show the rest is,
Yeah. Okay. Right. 9.1, we've sort of already discussed, haven't we? But I know you want to vent your spleen about stone water yet again, Steve. So this is correspondence where a resident has written to ask who is responsible for the overground land at the end of Paddock Close, as trees are overhanging their garden. I have to say, I do think they may have cut it, you know.
they did cut it, but I think it's grown over.
Yeah.
And to actually have Milton Keynes actually adopt the highway. As I said, there was a young lady funnily enough, in stilettos, totally inappropriate, walking around out and assessing whether the kind of estate was okay for Milton Keynes Council highways to adopt. And she took a note of overhanging trees from those two areas and said they'll have to do that.
Yeah.
So there's stuff that Stonewaters need to do before Milton Keynes Council adopts a highway and footways. And the other thing is really then they need to keep it maintained on a regular basis against their landscaping plan, which they kind of drew up and then completely ignored.
Yeah.
So there's two things to tie together.
Yeah, but we must have them doing what they say they do.
Yeah.
Could I
Is it
ask?
definitely the land on the left as you look at Paddock Close, not the land on the right?
Well, both of them. Both.
Do they own that? Oh, I didn't realise they owned
Yeah,
that land. They own both those green spaces.
Yeah, what
Oh, okay.
it's the swale area. Actually, we insisted that it was it was a planning condition.
Yeah.
That they took over.
Where the residents sit and have their barbecues and things.
Well, they don't anymore.
No, but they did.
It's being cut back.
Yeah.
Right,
Anyway,
okay. I thought that was village land, sorry.
very short digression. Alison, could I possibly ask you if you could keep track of where the highways adoption process of Carrington Grove has got to? Because I know this is something that you've been very closely involved in. Not for Castlethorpe, but generally.
Yeah.
And because I think Jackie asked the question of Rachel Monday and just got a ridiculously insubstantial answer. I mean, it was kind of, there was a big process and it takes a long time. Yes, we knew that, you know, but that wasn't the answer we wanted.
Yeah. I'll find out.
Yeah, if you would. Yeah. And I think it's, unfortunately, I don't think it's a matter of finding out. I think it's a matter of following through for probably several years.
We've got a couple in Hounslow.
Hounslow, yeah.
What, they've not been adopted yet?
Two small developments.
Yeah.
In this office section there.
Yeah.
But I think with regard to the member of the public, we need to tell them that it is Stonewaters' responsibility.
Yeah.
The trees are on their land
that
they have committed to upkeep. So the residents should probably have a go at them and we'll have a go as well.
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay, who did Russell write to? Was it to Jackie or to?
I was through the
It wasn't
contact.
to me.
Oh, through contact, so it really is to you,
Yeah.
really.
So I
Yeah,
have
so,
that.
yeah. Okay, and we've already dealt with 9.2. Now, I've also had an email today from a resident in School Lane, which I'll pop into the folder, you may not have seen it. I'll just read it out. Dear Phil, I hope this email finds you well. The parking at the bottom of School Lane hasn't improved, but in fact got worse since the new lines were painted near the nursery have been introduced. Cars now often park after the last line, although isn't a space. This causes problems, especially on a Friday, as the refuse lorry needs to reverse up the lane, and the lane has to be clear. Anyway, the point is they don't get their rubbish collected easily. I think actually they've also had problems getting out in the morning. I know the resident has been stuck waiting for people to come back to their cars to drive away from dropping their dear little ones off at the nursery before they can get their way to work.
Very surprised.
We're not talking to the nursery about this again.
Well, yeah.
I mean, they're supposed to have, I assume that, I think every business is supposed to have a certain amount of cartridge, is it? And they go way over those,
Yeah.
miles over it, so. I think that.
Well, what this resident had asked for is whether the parish council, I mean, I think we could. Who spoke to them last time? Did you speak to them last time, Steve?
I didn't speak to the nursery, no. I mean, I will say that we asked the cricket club to look after their parking. I don't think it's unreasonable to ask the nursery to do the same.
Yeah, it is slightly different because the nursery is public highway, whereas the cricket club is actually on. Well, I suppose actually it was on the public highway in front place.
Yeah.
Well, we could. I don't know if that's. Do you know anyone at nursery, Jack?
Not now, no, but I know that it's been going on since my two were there, because we used to get told all the time, please don't park. Please keep it clear, but we just don't.
Is that something you feel you could do? Or
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
they.
just. We will find out who our PCSOs are now that Dave has moved on.
Terry, I think.
Terry, is it?
And we've got anyone starting on Wednesday.
Ah, right. To come along on a Friday when the refuse lorry is coming round, and I think they can at least put a polite note on it. If not, I'm not sure if
Because
they're allowed.
it is an offence, isn't it? Because they're blocking.
Block the road. Yes.
They're blocking.
Run out.
So it doesn't have to be on the Friday, if this is happening.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I mean, the people from the nursery think they could park the park in front of people's driveways,
Yeah.
park.
I mean,
About 2 meters from the
what the
building.
resident has asked for, as you can see
Okay.
in the letter, is he said, I wonder if the parish council, of course, it being against highways, would consider a small hatching next to the last line, which would indicate no parking and help show that the last line is the finish of the spaces and not the start of a new one. So we could raise that. In fact, I think we all
I
could
think I
raise
was gonna
that.
say, yeah, it's not gonna hurt.
There is hatching on the top of New Road, but people still park out there.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we've got to be seen to be doing something,
Yeah,
but ultimately, these people are so ignorant, they're not gonna make any.
It's a
Well,
resident who
they-
parks
they-
on the ones at the top of the.
they don't want, their little darlings to have to.
No,
cross the
well,
road.
exactly.
Even though there's gonna be a minute and nobody will
Yeah.
come down in that
Yeah.
5 minutes.
The problem is there's too many cars.
So there's nothing else to park, so they drop the kids, yeah,
Yeah,
so they'll see a space, stop there.
It will make it be a minute, and
Yeah.
that minute somebody else comes down.
The problem is
okay,
no
well,
minute.
we're not to dwell on it. Jack is going to have a word with the nursery to ask them if they could again ask parents not to park there. Specifically, that's actually, I mean,
Yeah.
double parking in front of the delineated spaces is probably not too much of a problem, but parking to stop residents actually getting in and out of their homes is not acceptable.
Can we ask them to get the kiddies, put a note in the kiddies, but Saturday's on that.
What we need is a park and ride outside the village, don't we?
Yeah.
Maybe they could put a no parking sign on their gates outside.
We can do a drop-off charge like airports do.
Yeah, but no
Oh,
park.
that'd be good. That'd be good to imagine.
Yeah, right.
Okay, look, I think we've got that.
I'm taking the spaces or something.
Right. Talk to PCS, I'll try and talk to PCS and find them. Jackie will talk to the nursery and Jackie will raise with Rachel Monday a request to put some action down. Right, I think that brings us to the end. Is there any other business?
Yes, I have some, but it's of a financial nature, so is it possible to do it in part two? Or not, technically?
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it depends whether it's got an outcome.
Oh, well, it won't.
No,
It's just something.
So you, I mean, is it particularly
Yeah, you
confidential?
can raise it as other business in part two.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah, sorry.
anybody else, Kay?
Yeah, you didn't say whether it's okay for the form. Is that okay? Is everybody happy with that form?
Yeah, no.
I said, okay, that's fine. And who else wants to be involved in the meeting? That was all.
I'll come on.
Well, yeah, we'll come along. Assuming
They didn't go out.
The
Okay.
meeting came.
Sorry, I haven't organised it yet,
Right.
but I just want to know who to invite.
Yeah, I'll go.
I've just got one quick question, and that's our oak tree. Is there any?
No, so I.
Next to Sid.
Well,
Behind the scene. I asked,
Stop recording now.
I asked, for permission, as you know, and
Yeah.
they came back and said
I
yes.
said yes.
Who's gonna water it, who's done that?
Yeah, which,
Which I went back and said that we would.
Is this the best kept village oak?
yes.
Yes, yes,
And where is it?
in the top of Gobbies,
Top of Commons, right, okay.
which they agreed to.
Just prospect place. I was going to ask God whether he wouldn't mind.
So I went back and said that we would sort that out, and they haven't replied since,
Okay.
and I've chased them and they haven't, so whether they've changed their minds.
So that's the best kept village people.
No, that's the agent for Gobbies.
Oh, sorry, what are we asking them now? Because they'd said yes, we can.
They said yes, in principle we could, but they wanted to just know how we were gonna look after it and, you know, take responsibility for it, which I went back and said, yes, we would. So do they now agree that we can go ahead and have it planted, and they haven't replied?
And this is the one with top of Cobby's field. Yeah, I mean, the only problem is we're not being able to water it, so
Was.
No,
So-
it's Steve,
I
no.
was going to ask Scott whether he could commission with the.
Or we could get a water bag,
Yeah,
but we haven't, and so, I mean, I can chase it again, but I did about 2 weeks ago. and they-
yeah, sure. Do you know, if they said in principle, providing we can water it, I would just do it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
fine, yeah, because the lady's desperate to give it to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Just let's get
that's
that.
Nuts.
let's just do it.
The weather will-
Right,
Yeah.
I think, any other business before we close? Right, next parish council meeting's on the 8th of January because the 1st is a bank holiday, yeah. We have got parishes forum on Thursday, which I now can't get to.
Oh, it's by Zoom and then.
Yeah,
By Teams.
I'll look
Yeah,
into
and I
that.
did ask, we are allowed two people, because they have got the finance officer is going to come along and probably give the result of the decision that is going to be made by Milton Keynes Council tomorrow night. But actually, I don't think it really affects Castlethorpe. It's all about second home owner, empty second homes and empty properties and second home premiums, isn't it? And I don't think we've got any or many of those, because I think it was in the decimal points on the tax base as to whether it was going to affect it, so I don't think it does.
But I'll do that.
Thank you very much. I will send my apologies into Claire.
Well, I think I'm nominating against her on it anyway, so I need to thank you, it's my job.
Right, okay, then declare the meeting ended. Thank you everyone who's stayed through and repeat. Have a good Christmas and New Year. Right, and we'll switch off to Thank you.
Have a good day.
Oh.